welcome our friends from RVIA to our late year 2020 year in perspective video series. And we're trying to talk to the players from different corners of the market and to get a good handle on what the heck's going on in 2020, as if anybody really knows. I mean, I don't mean that to impugn your integrity. We've never seen a year like this. And so anyway, we appreciate you joining us. We're with Craig Kirby, President and CEO of RVIA, Karen Redfern, Vice President, Brand Marketing, Go RVing, and Jay Landers, Vice President, Government Affairs, RVIA. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I'm just going to throw the door wide open. What sort of a year has it been for you all in steering the National Trade Organization through these sometimes rocky waters?
Well, I'll just start off by saying just how, fortunate our industry is. When you look around, about so many people have suffered and industries have not bounced back, and how we were shut down and how we came roaring back. So I think that's a phenomenal story right there. The overarching thing that I feel really good about is how this industry is providing an escape for people when they need it most. I mean, there's so much stress in people's lives as a result of the pandemic, that people can take our products out with their family and enjoy the great outdoors safely. I mean, that's awesome that we can provide that kind of escape. So that's I think really big.
Craig, let me just jump in for 1 second on that. So RVIA is part of the Outdoor Recreation Roundtable, which is a 2 or 3 year old coalition now. And in March, April, we had a board meeting. And as we went around the room and talked about our industries, it was pretty shocking to hear how many other trade associations had laid off most of their staff. Some of them were actually shuttering. They were going out of business entirely. And and then when I got to speak, it was like, yeah, well, factories have closed, but we're on the cusp of reopening. So this is, late April, early May. And, we know the dealers are desperate for product, and the industry was still buzzing. So, people were looking at me like, wow, you guys are pretty lucky. But it was just really startling to hear such a widespread negative impact on so many different industries, just within that one room.
And I think what was amazing for the entire industry was that the consumers and the media got behind the idea of RVing was the way we could kind of bring some of that normalcy back to our lives that we were missing. And it really exploded with the coverage that we were receiving organically, in addition to what we did with our campaign. So it was great to see the momentum that started growing behind.
The summer of the RV.
Go ahead.
Oh, it was the summer of the RV, right?
It was, and I think, the industry deserves a lot of credit. I think it's real important that we have such great industry unity. The way the manufacturers, suppliers, the dealers, the campgrounds, the related associations, all came together on the industry relaunch task force. And Gary Enyers, our chairman, deserves a lot of credit for starting that task force. And so we were able to talk about government affairs issues, which I'm sure Jay will talk about here shortly. But most importantly, we came together as an industry, and as a result, we were able to come out of it faster and stronger than a lot of industries because of our ability to work together. And that's what sets this industry apart. And so all the individuals within the industry working together that's something that we can be really proud of. And, going back to your other question, your initial question, Sherm, I think about someone sitting in my seat, let's say 30 years from now. They're going to look back at the shipment statistics, and this year is going to look like every other year. And they're going to sit there and they're going to say, oh, wow, RV industry didn't really have any impact on the RV industry. And it just doesn't tell the whole story. There's such a story here to tell about how the industry has stepped up from providing PPE to providing an escape for consumers and people across this country, that it's a great story to tell.
Okay, break it down if you would, this unbelievably challenging year. If the industry, which you've alluded to, almost went on a war footing with a task force and you working with other organizations and meeting on a regular basis, right?
We did. And, I'll let Jay talk a little bit about the government affairs activities, because that was critical during that time period on getting the industry designated as essential businesses.
Oh, I don't know if you guys know, but, RVIA and RVDA and ARBIC were meeting daily.
That's what I thought. Yep.
Yeah, and then it expanded into, let's bring in all of the rest of the groups, and then we were meeting weekly and then bi-weekly. But one of the first things that we recognized very early on was the absolute necessity that our business segments, RV industry, the RV manufacturers and suppliers, and the dealers and the campgrounds, all be designated as essential businesses, because the cybersecurity, we struggle with this, CISA, cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Dang it.
Government agency.
Yeah. There you go. Anyways, that's the federal kind of DHS group. They have who's essential for transportation, for manufacturing, for a whole host of business segments. And so we got in there fairly early advocating that while we don't necessarily need to be targeted and identified specifically, we need to be included in auto or some other greater manufacturing enterprise and transportation enterprises. And we were successful with that. And that was just a recommendation by the federal government to the states. So the states glommed onto that, and many of them just took that language verbatim and stuck it into their orders, the governor's orders. Sometimes they tweaked it to our advantage. Every once in a while, it was not to our advantage. But then we jumped onto working with the governors and working with the closure task forces that each state had. And we used our own lobbyists and friends that we have in the industry. We used the auto industry, our auto industry contacts. We reached out to the DMV folks that we know and all of this. And then we ended up putting an awful lot of pressure on these decision makers with a grassroots campaign where we generated well over 100,000 letters from consumers and other advocates to pressure governors and their task force to keep parks open, to keep the dealerships open at some point, whether it's, even if it's just an internet business, but it's got to stay open, and repair business has to stay open. Manufacturing has to stay open. So the timing of these was critical. Some states closed early, some were later. What do you do when one state is still closed, another state opens? And so it was kind of a balancing act and a total patchwork of stuff. But we were, really remarkably successful keeping, at least from the government side, keeping the business open, the RV business, all of the segments. So
On that, playing on that war footing theme, Karen, you didn't get puny about marketing.
No,
Went on the attack, right?
we did. And if you remember, we launched, had we known, had our crystal ball told us what was going to happen in 2020, we probably would not have launched 2 simultaneous RFPs for new agencies to do our campaign and then also the website at the end of 2019. But we were in the middle of it and we went ahead. And we had just selected the new website developer in the middle of February. But the week that everything shut down was the week that our final agencies were supposed to be coming to Reston along with our creative work group to select the agency to carry our new campaign forward. We knew that younger audience wanted a more lively marketing campaign. We wanted to start portraying RVs as being exciting and, you know, really as an integral part of everything that people do. So we were in search of an agency to be our partner, and we went ahead. We did it virtually as everyone else has done it. And the creation of Go on a Real Vacation with FCB and then their media partner, their sister agency. We've done it from kitchen tables and, you know, and home offices in Reston and in Chicago and Detroit, and we pulled together the campaign. And it was amazing. I mean, my internal team, I can't say anything but wonderful things about them. We all pulled together and we created in a 30-day timetable what usually takes several months, 3 to 6 months to transition between agencies. 27 days after we signed the contracts with FCB, we had a media plan that was starting to execute. And we started because we had to do all the creative with them with radio. That was the quickest way for us to get that out, and social, paid social posts. And then we started building all the campaign pieces as we went through. And finally, at the end of August, we launched with actual broadcast spots, TV spots that went on prime time, late night, the late night talk shows. All of our major sporting events were having their finals, you know, running. And what we did was, we know that frequency is the best way to get that message across. And when you're on broadcast, it's expensive. So we did a combination of 15-second and 30s because we needed new modular ads with the campaign that were fast moving and energetic. And in 15 seconds, you got just as much energy in that RVing story as you did in 30. So we were able to have a lot more frequency on television and on the digital. So in, you know, a 6-month time period, we've had about 1.6 billion impressions. And what we also did is people are getting bored with what was on television. And where do people turn to? Millions of new videos are uploaded every day to YouTube. So we decided to go with a 10-second ad that was non-skippable with YouTube, so that when people were logging in to watch whatever kind of video, our ad would show up. And from that, we had over 148 million views. But the incredible part of that is 42% of the people who saw that 10-second ad actually clicked for more information on RVing. So while we didn't have our new website up and running, August, September, and October, we had the highest traffic that we've ever had to our website in 13 years for visitors, of people searching for dealers, for information about RVing, how to rent, how to buy, where to go. And then once our website launched at the end of October, those numbers continued to skyrocket with the consumer interaction. So we've gotten that message out there. There are a lot of people that are excited. We've actually heard from consumers. One was a 73-year-old woman she and her husband are African-American and have RV'd for their lifetime. And we're so excited to see so many people that look like them in these new ads. So they've resonated with the consumers. They're fast-paced, and we're bringing in that younger audience that will help us to sustain the industry going forward.
And I can't speak highly enough of the Go RVing team. Think about this: the industry shut down. We want to relaunch, and we want, you know, with Go RVing being at the center to help the industry get restarted. And we don't have an ad agency. And the 3 ad agencies we have all presented media plans that aren't appropriate anymore. So basically, once we selected the ad agency, then you had to start from scratch with a plan that's appropriate during the pandemic and get it launched. So they did a fabulous job in accomplishing something that has worked so well and in a very timely manner.
In all of this, without the long table coalition meeting that was held every year, at committee week, and in which everything would be reviewed in detail and so forth. Never mind, it's gone for now. And
Now,
so
soon to return.
what's up?
Soon to return.
So Great American Outdoors Act, if we're looking at 2020, we can't overlook it.
Yeah. This is the biggest thing. Think about what happened in Congress. Everything got bogged down with the CARES Act and the stimulus recovery, however you want to describe it. But the only thing that really got through in a big way was outdoor recreation related business. Okay. And I mean, this act, the Great American Outdoors Act, is the single biggest investment in public lands in well over 60 years. I mean, it's generational. Our kids are going to barely benefit, but it'll be our kids and our kids' kids, our grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Those are the folks who are really going to benefit from this. It's going to chip away at literally $20 billion worth of deferred maintenance that has accumulated over time. And the best thing about this is, one of the best things is, it's not even using taxpayer dollars. This is going to be offshore drilling and fossil fuel types of related revenues that are going to fund the deferred maintenance. The other piece of this is they finally have funded and appropriated the money for the Land and Water Conservation Fund, and this will drop $900 million annually in perpetuity, forever, every year, to upgrading parks, federal parks, state parks, local parks, buying more land, just doing whatever is necessary for consumers of the great outdoors. So this, and to help get this thing through, it was just a tremendous thing to see how all of our businesses, our three segments, as I talked them, manufacturers and suppliers, dealers, campgrounds, we all came together. Again, a big grassroots piece. We called, we wrote letters. My whole team was on the phone. We're just dogging the staff and the members of Congress. We're calling our senators, all of the RV caucus people who have been our champions. They were advocating for us. So, it passed overwhelmingly. And this is going to set the industry up for success over the next 50 years. It's a tremendous accomplishment.
So as we
one
said,
of our,
go ahead.
I was just going to say that one of our focuses has been on improving the consumer experience. And the Great American Outdoors Act is a prime example of how the industry came together and getting this legislation passed. But we've also accomplished a lot of other things that have been around for decades together this year. It's really been a phenomenal year in that we passed the recommended model year introduction date. That's something that's going to benefit consumers. We passed the vehicle length requirement that's going to require a length label on products that will help consumers when they're shopping for units. And we continue to work on the repair event cycle time, that issue, and we're going to really press it even more, working with our dealer partners in 2021. So there are a lot of things unrelated to the pandemic that we accomplished this year, at the same time still addressing those necessary issues that we need to promote and protect the industry during this challenging time.
Go ahead, Rick.
Craig, just to follow up on that, I think we'd be remiss not to mention some of the 2020 accomplishments with the RV Technical Institute on the RECT issue, but they also adapted to the pandemic by shifting some of their curriculum online. Can you speak to that?
Right. What RVTI has accomplished has been terrific.
Amazing.
From the standpoint of they are basically going to be self-sufficient at least a year ahead of time as part compared to what the strategic plan was. They have trained 300 technicians a year ahead of time that they were supposed to have accomplished that. Their budget for the time period is significantly lower than what had been anticipated, and that was through the great management of the whole team there and keeping costs down. The level 1 online is going to be a huge hit, as because it allows people to take the course whenever it's convenient for them. So I think you're going to see a spike in the number of technicians taking the class, and so I expect it to be a huge success. So RVTI, they're going to have a big spot on our coming up in our annual meeting, so we can get into that a little bit more then.
So it being December, the holidays coming, I'm guessing that it didn't slow you down from planning for next year. Can you give us a few highlights for next year before we close out?
Sure. I mean, we're doing something a little differently, that the Go RVing board and the RVTI board are going to work with the staff and develop goals for those particular organization, subsets within RVIA. The RVIA, the couple things we're going to focus on. One, I already mentioned, the repair event cycle time. We're going to work with our dealer partners and see if we can continue to reduce the amount of time it takes to get a repair through, because that's I think by getting more technicians trained out there, that we can make some progress on it. So that's going to be a priority. With the elimination of our national trade show, I know that was a big area for suppliers, that they miss having a trade show. And so we're going to be working on having seeing what we can do to enhance supplier value in this coming year. And our supplier committee, that's a top target and of interest for our board, to see what we can do in that area. We want to continue to provide value to all our members. And one of the more interesting projects that we're going to be working on is an emerging leader initiative, and it's being led by emerging leaders. And our hope is, from my vision of this emerging leader initiative, that not only will provide an opportunity to training our next leaders in the industry, but it'll be an opportunity for people from different segments of the industry to get to know each other and know how their segment operates, and develop relationships. Because one of the things that I mentioned earlier is the industry unity. And so I'm hopeful that as the emerging leaders get together, these relationships are developed, and what results is the continuation of the unity that we see here today for the future.
I would also note real quick that we're still very hopeful that Committee Week, RVs Move America Week, will happen second week of June, which will give us another opportunity to get up onto Capitol Hill for Advocacy Day and push our policy agenda and meet, schedule meetings and get our guys right in front of the policymakers.
So a couple other projects that were accomplished this year. We are conducting the largest consumer demographic research we've done in 8 years. And out of the initial results, you've probably seen how we've talked about over 46 million Americans plan on taking an RV trip in the next year. So there's some great data coming out of this research that we're going to have available for the members before too long. And then right mid-year, unexpectedly, Dr. Curtin basically retired. And so we had to find a new forecasting firm. And we found ITR, which has done, from my interaction and from talking to our market information committee, they've done an excellent job and stepped right in, and we feel really good about their forecast abilities moving forward.
And most recently, their forecast is for next year is just over 500,000 shipments, correct?
Correct. I mean, it's supposed to continue the excellent growth that we've seen here coming out of the pandemic. And I think that the younger buyers that we were talking about earlier will continue to create long-term growth for the industry.
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate the heck out of it. And we'll look forward here to the annual meeting also that's occurring shortly. So thank you. We appreciate it very much. Have a good day, and hope to see you in person sometime
in May.
the near future.
In May.
in your future.
All right, you guys.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Really
Thanks
so
appreciate
much.
you
Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
inviting us.
Bye.